moderator from Italy, USA, Japan, Vietnam, and good afternoon, everybody around the world. I am Tu Anh, the director of the Institute of Smart City and Management, University of Economic, Ho Chi Minh City. Smart City is very hot topic now over the world. We can find many different approach to the for the model future, for the city future. For us, smart city is not about the technology. It's is applying the tool to the problem solving that we may have in the efficiently research. Being a part of the Southeast region of the National Festival Innovative Startup TechFest 2020, Smart City Plus Initiative workshop webinar is the first creative kickstart to inspire the ideas and activity of the ISCM 2021 series throughout the year and attract more partners in collaboration to develop smart city in integrated ways. The first section of this panel discussion today is hosted by UEH-ISCM and our excellency networks, Politecnico di Milano University, Birthplace Architecture, Center of Research Architecture, Handong Global University, Unitwin, a joint effort to discussing about the how urban transformation technology impact to planning and design. Many thanks to all of you joining the panel discussion, Smart City Plus Initiative, Tech and Urban Transformation. Please warmly welcome the active and rich experience moderator, Dr. To Kien. Dr. To Kien is a senior lecturer at ISCM and also a senior planner and manager of EJEC Inc. based in Tokyo. Before joining industry in 2017, he was senior researcher and lecturer in urban planning and design with over 20 years academic tracking records and strong focus on Asia, trained and worked in Japan, Germany, Vietnam, and Singapore. He has researched published extensively on various sustainability topics, including smart and innovative city, participatory community designs, urban livability, historical conservation, aging, and creativity. He gained wide range empirical knowledge through field-based research projects and across Asia. He receives awards and appreciation from various organizations and delivers talks internationally. So now, here is your test. And Kian, everybody is waiting for your guide. So
thank you for the introduction.
So you also can start with the Kian to introduce our panelists and also our sections.
Hello, everybody. So thank you very much for the introduction. And it is our privilege to have you all here to spend your precious time with us with this topic. And I'm sure that I assume that all you guys, since you guys are all here, I believe that you all share the interest on the smart city and also are eager to listen to our privileged distinguished speakers who will share with you on some very interesting talks. We have Stevens and we will have Barbara who will share very different approaches as well as the case studies in America, in Europe, and also with the kind of references to Vietnam context. And just to let you know that although we are coming from different countries with different backgrounds, we all share a kind of Vietnam circles. All of us here have some kind of connection with Vietnam. The foreign speakers here, they all also have a track record working in Vietnam and know Vietnam as well. Without, as you know, the topic of this seminar is about Smart City Plus Initiative. So these are the very important keyword. And I also like the keyword from Dr. Tu Anh mentioned just now about ISCM, which is human centers. I would like to focus on this keyword. We all share about human-centered approach. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. Stephen from B+H company, and he will share with us about his presentation on Smart City Initiative. The floor is yours, Stephen.
Thank you, Token. Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is a very exciting event. I hope you're all engaged in this. This is really an opportunity for us to make some really critical decisions, not only about our lives, but the lives that are coming behind us. Da Den Luk, Chung Ta Saison, Tan Pho, Ho Chi Minh, Tan Mot, Do Ti, Tong Ming. My Vietnamese is terrible. I'll say the rest in English, okay? All right, Smart City and Initiative. This is a picture of what the problem is, and in fact, in just the past months, we've seen this in the middle of Vietnam, subject to almost 10 storms that have come through the country. Yep, there we go. So, what's facing us today? Inspirational challenges mandate immediate responsiveness. We have changing demographics, changing demographics, aging population. Vietnam is home to the world's fastest growing middle class with disposable income, and disposable income comes choice. Climate change, impacts of urbanization, geopolitical power shifts. We see the world is changing again right before our very eyes. And now the digital revolution. This year, over 70% of the Vietnamese population has come online. And we can see it on our mobile phones every day. So how many of you know what a definition of smart city actually is? Raise your hand if you really know. The definition of smart city. So let's go to the Wikipedia definition. A smart city is an urban area that uses different types of electronic methods and sensors to collect data, of which insights gained from that data are used to manage assets, resources, and services efficiently. In return, that data is used to improve the operations across the city. So that's the technical side. But the city planner, our ideology is much more three-dimensional. We have a huge responsibility. Our approach is an urbanist approach. So everything that you see wrong with Ho Chi Minh City today is pretty much responsible for city planning. We are the ones that design the cities. We're the ones that create its functional aspects and also its dysfunctional aspects. So you have people like me to blame. And also the way we manage those cities is a huge problem. So today I'll talk about a few strategies that will help us in the future. Integrated strategies for smart city living, integration versus segregation or separation, smart planning for transport. This is a picture of Singapore's autonomous vehicle system that's now in testing in Singapore as we speak. Balancing urban structure with ecological respect, collective density, increasing density to provide more public open space. Not the best example, but it's a start. Okay? Creating smart systems to monitor, enhance, and inform community practice. Smart utilities, smart infrastructure, smart management. So integration versus segregation. It's really time for us to relearn what we value traditionally in how we enjoy vibrant cities. District 1 is a great example of where we started. The Italian district is also a kind of an outgrowth of that. Some of those values we need to protect as we move forward. Protecting the integration of city function, living and working environments, amenity and recreation, cultural and recreation, of course. So some examples. Project I worked on, this is actually the Jurong Lake CBD in Singapore. This is working, and every aspect of daily life is integrated. It's not two-dimensional, it's three-dimensional. We stack uses up, residential, commercial, all the amenities that you can imagine. Compare that to West Los Angeles, California, the town I grew up in. Everything is separate. Everybody has their own their own small open space. Big streets divide the city up culturally and create a very dysfunctional pattern. So how do we apply this in Vietnam? Back in 1993, when I started coming here, we started the Phu My Hung Master Plan District 7. Part of that is built, as you know, and that was our first attempt to start to layer integration of lifestyle, commercial, and public uses together and create that around a preservation of open space and ecology. This was a big step in Vietnam, and it actually was it put Vietnam in the leadership of urban development in Southeast Asia. This was the first project of its type. Singapore started developing projects like this after it was done here. Keep that in mind. Okay. And also in the Hanoi New Town in the late 1990s, again, creating a very dense and compact integrated mixed-use CBD. Second issue, smart planning for transport. The goal here is to eliminate the human vehicular conflict. This is not the solution. Separating people from the street is not the proper solution. What we need to do is control the use of the automobile as it goes through our precious urban environments. The people still have the right to the ground plane. The car has to become more of a service to that function. Look at a classic pedestrian street in Europe. This is La Rambla in Barcelona, Spain. We even have traffic here, but traffic is secondary to the people, to the public space. And by virtue of this, this is a very successful and vibrant urban environment. They make a lot of money here. And the car is secondary to the entire experience. New urban boulevards in our new cities are all dedicated to automobiles. Very confusing, very conflicting environments, not a very nice place to walk. I'm surprised there's actually people here. Usually they're all in cars, but there's more cars than people. This is a big thing. As we're building 2TM right now, as we're building out into the eastern expansion area, what kind of environments are we going to build? This is a really critical issue that we must face, because once we build out in the suburban areas, it's there to stay for a long time. We don't want this. And we certainly don't want this. This is where I grew up in Los Angeles. We didn't have a lot of walking in this town, as you can see. The biggest challenge for transportation in the private automobile, it's the space that we need between the cars. The problem is not the car. The problem is us. Because when we drive a car, we need several seconds to respond if the car in front of us stops suddenly. That requires a lot of pavement. So the biggest impact to private automobiles is actually the amount of impervious surface we place on the planet. Rainwater does not go through here very easily. So that's a very big environmental challenge for us. And that is and also these big highways tend to start segregating our city into different places. We keep people apart, we separate people. Not a great cultural response. But what happened in Los Angeles? Let's look at it. Back in the 1920s, Los Angeles had a rail system that was unequaled anywhere in the world except maybe in older parts of Europe, okay? So London, Paris, Los Angeles, New York, rail systems. People used to go around on trains, But then this really amazing guy named Henry Ford came around. In the 1920s, the American automobile was born, and his famous quote, "The modern city is probably the most unlovely and artificial sight this planet affords." Where was he coming from? He must have been living on a farm most of his life. The ultimate solution is to abandon it. We shall solve the city problems by leaving the city. So you build a car so you can leave. The city you love, you now don't have to live in it anymore. And therefore, this is the Los Angeles freeway system built over 50 years of time to accommodate automobiles. Finally, after years of frustrating long queues on freeways going to and from work, taking sometimes several hours in each direction, people finally said enough is enough. And now Los Angeles is, what are they doing? They're building their rail system again. Finally, probably one of the most largest rail systems in the world will be realized by 2040. A great step forward. So what does this have to do with Smart City? Smart City is getting around in a very efficient and technologically advanced way. In Tanda, we will have a CBD someday if the plans become successful. This CBD is also going to become a major transit hub for Line 8 and Line 4A when it gets developed. I was the master planner of this over the years when I was at AECOM previous to my current experience. And it could be very exciting. Balancing urban structure with ecological respect. Basically, it's time to come to the realization that we all have our beginnings in nature. So better understanding of how natural systems function, and then developing more sensitive responses on how to integrate that into our environment. In Singapore, great example, Punggol New Town has a preservation district of rivers and lakes, and then they create density to provide that open space of amenity. In Seoul, the Center City Canal that they just renovated and opened up and created a recreation and entertainment function around it, very successful. Going back to Los Angeles, my hometown, this is how we develop rivers in Los Angeles. They're just basically big utilities, and often the scene of crime, if not crime movies, as we go through life. Very pretty. And so how do we do this in Vietnam? One of the plans that good case study is our District 2 River Park Master Plan, where we open up all these river channels on the east side of 2TM. We allow those spaces to accommodate floodwater and rising sea level impacts, and at the same time create public parks that people can enjoy and use to move around the environment without using the private car. A big advantage. In the Saigon Northwest area, preserving the agricultural fields and letting that green framework actually define various neighborhoods and create distinctive identity for those various districts there. And density is critical. So by providing higher density, we can reserve more land for open space and amenity, and then again bring urban recreation or bring recreation space into our urban areas. Very, very important to raise the quality of life. Actually, Ho Chi Minh City has some of the best urban parks in the world when you look at it, even better than Singapore. In District 1, every major park is completely accessible, and we're really lucky to have that framework. And we should continue that as we build and expand the city outward. So again, probably the best example of large-scale open space, New York Central Park, designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, a famous landscape architect in the early 20th century. All of this real estate here is extremely high value. Nobody in the world can afford it now because you're living on Central Park. So the large commitment of open space also increases value to an extreme. Compared to a retirement community, Sun City in Arizona, everybody has a yard that they don't want to use. Everybody is segregated from each other, and nobody is really very happy there. The other thing that happens is in Central Park, retired people live just next to new families. In Sun City, Arizona, retirement people are kept into a little compound away from the mainstream society. This is a real loss for American culture because elderly people love to be around new families and kids. You know, it's a really great part of growing older is to know that you're still connected, right? So again, back in District 2, looking at these open space areas, creating connections, and then creating a culture around those green belts and open space areas. Saigon Northwest, same thing. Using the agricultural lands and bringing those parks through the city and creating vibrant pedestrian corridors and connections through there. Are we almost out of time? Okay, one more minute. No problem. I'm done in a minute. Creating smart systems to monitor, enhance, and inform community practice. So IT is very important to us, and we must realize that learning to live with AI and IT is a vital tool for improving quality of life, and we shouldn't see it as a life-threatening directive of some sort where it's going to change our life radically. Cisco systems, looking at a variety of aspects and putting those in place in Singapore as we speak. And then remarkably, IBM also has the two major companies are IBM and Cisco right now internationally that provide smart city technology. This is a smart city network in place in another developing nation in Brazil. This is Rio de Janeiro, already in place, using smart city technology to manage, operate the city very efficiently. And how do we apply this to Vietnam? Just in August, the Prime Minister came up with a statement. Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City should become a smart and modern city. Modern, yes, of course, but smart city soon. I think he gave it about 5-year window of opportunity. This is benevolent leadership. This man helped us through a pandemic. We are the leaders in the world of being resilient, and now we can be the leaders in the world of being technologically advanced. Okay, and that's it. So, Sinchan, come on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stephen. Just very, very interesting talk. And my apologies that I misunderstood a little bit with ISCM would introduce about Stephen's profile. So I would spend a very, very quick just a minute to introduce Stephen. Stephen Towson is a principal and director of Planning Asia at B+H Architects, a leading global design and consulting firm with over 65 years of award-winning work. Stephen is a seasoned planning professional and industry leader in urban design with 40 years of experience of award-winning urban design and master plan projects for multinational clients across Vietnam, Hong Kong, China, USA, Asia, Middle East, and Europe. His experience encompasses with all aspects of urban designs, including conceptual architecture design, land planning, transport planning, development planning, and landscape concept design. Through his work, Stephen continuously set a benchmark for sustainable development practices and provides an interdisciplinary approach for master planning and urban design practices. Stephen's international experience, blended with his contextual philosophy and deep understanding of the local culture and planning regulations, aligns with B+H vision of creating healthy, sustainable, and resilient communities in Vietnam, throughout Asia, and around the world. Right. So Now, let's move next to the next speaker. It is our privilege to have Professor Barbara Piga from Politecnico di Milano University in Milan, Department of Architecture and Urban Studies. So Barbara Piga is assistant professor at Politecnico di Milano, where she is coordinator of the Laboratorio di Stimolazione Urbana Francesco Cotti. Sorry if for my Italians, poor Italians knowledge, where she leads project related to experimental simulation and sensory urban design. She is Polimi. Polimi is a short form of Politico di Milano. She is Polimi coordinator for 2 European projects on augmented and virtual reality for collaborative urban planning. Yes, so without further ado, please welcome Professor Barbara.
Thank you a lot. I'm going to share my screen. Please just give me a feedback if you see my presentation.
Please keep your presentation within 12 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Do you see it?
Not
Do you
yet.
see the presentation?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay. Let me share it again. Okay. Now it should work.
You can see now.
You can? Okay, that's great. Thank you a lot. So I'm very pleased, and thank you for the invitation. I'm very pleased to present my research perspective here. So let me start from what I think a smart city is. I think a smart city, since it is smart, nowadays is a sustainable city in a wide perspective. So in the sense, in the let's say, frame of the SDGs. And so a smart city is a city that takes into account the sustainable perspective from the environmental point of view, but also the social perspective, and especially the well-being of people. So my presentation is going to be focused on the well-being and the social and subjective perspective of people living in the urban environment. What I work on is experiential simulation as a tool for anticipating the subjective experience of people, for informing urban design and the evaluation of urban design projects. So the idea is, the approach, let's say, is that I investigate the person-environment relationship in order to provide information to designers and decision makers of public administrations, but also to inform citizens in order to foster a human-centered design approach. Of course, by doing this, it is important to have a specific perspective that takes into account the way we live, we experience reality. And of course, we consider that people move through space, so they have several points of view while experiencing the urban environment. And it is not that easy so far to investigate and to measure this experience, which is, of course, an intangible, a subjective experience. So the point is that reality is, let's say, we can consider reality in its objective physical dimension, but the way we perceive reality, as you can see here on the right image, is quite different. Every people has his own perception of the atmosphere, perception of the comfort of the urban space. And then how to envision the way people perceive and will live the environment in the future. This is not an easy task. So to the same reality, people will react in several ways, in different ways. How to envision the way will react to the environment, how to understand and how to take into account the multiple dimensions, the multiple perspectives that will characterize our interaction with the environment. So, okay. So we move from the attention from the physical, our attention from the physical environment to the perceived environment. So we move from the idea of space to the idea of place through the sensation of people considering the subjective experience, from the atmosphere to the ambiance, let's say, the atmosphere perceived by the human beings. And of course, this relationship between the physical environment and the perceived environment is a dynamic relationship that evolves a long time and in space, of course. So for instance, the way we perceive reality is not a fixed image, but we move through the environment and we move through the environment, and while moving through it, we perceived the same we perceive the same let's say architectural elements in different perspectives, and this is only one case. At the same time, we do not only perceive this we have this let's say evolution in perception, but also the environment itself is evolving a long time. So if we would like to have information for the urban design process, and if we would like to check the performance of our design, we have to envision this complex relationship between people and the environment. On one side, as we said, there's the physical environment that's changing time. We have more permanent conditions, that is the urban fabric. That is, of course, the main action by designers, so it is controlled by design. Then we have some recursive conditions, some has vegetation, for instance, and it is semi-controlled by design. Then we have semi-permanent condition, for instance, urban furniture. This is, of course, controlled by design. But then also we have prohibition that are again semi-controlled by design. For instance, flow of cars and people is controlled by design by having streets and sidewalks. On the other side, so as we can see here, people are part of the environment, but at the same time, they are personal subjects with their own experiences. So the way we have to conceive the relationship between the environment and the person should consider also the person itself, and the person has his own experience, his own background. The person living a present condition is of course influenced by his past experiences and also the future expectation. If I would like to go outside a place, I look for a door, for instance. And this inform the way I will behave in the next future, and so on. So on one side, we have the main urban domain, the main domain of urban design, while on the other side, we have the main domain of psychology, and especially environmental psychology is considered with the environmental perspective. Of course, my main focus is on the environmental studies, so in the relationship between the two, with an interdisciplinary approach. That's what led me to design a research project for anticipating the subjective experience of people using virtual and augmented reality. All was revealed what is to confirm what is expected in terms of design desiderata, that is the expectation of the architects and the clients, with the real outcomes of people before construction, so to anticipate their reactions. And so the idea is to create a tool able to reveal the expected, but even the unexpected, to inform the design process as a whole. So this is the two projects I lead. The name is Augmented Reality for Collaborative Urban Planning, and we developed an app, a smart app for first envision future conditions, and so provides an easy tool for people to envision urban projects and collect their reaction to it, and a tool for assessing the two-day condition at the neighborhood scale. So the app can work in augmented reality, but also offsite in virtual reality to create a virtual co-creation process that promotes inclusiveness of all the actors that are involved in urban transformations. And by doing this, it encourages an evidence-based decision making that can measure the reaction of people. We did two European projects. The first one is concluded, and we did a pilot application on the Carlo Ratti Associati Vite project here in Milan, and with the real estate company Covideo. This year, we have more stakeholders, as you can see here, and we are going to work at the district level instead. The project context, as I was mentioning, is this one. We would like to anticipate user responses to urban transformations and to investigate and measure their experience. How to do this? By using experiential simulation and psychological survey and assessment through the use of new technologies and especially immersive simulations. Okay, this is an example of how the app can work. So for instance, you can navigate the environment, and the app will ask you some feedback to provide. The idea is to share the design schemes on-site and off-site, and the questionnaire and the other data that we collect are based on a scientific analysis that enable us to envision the reaction of people. And of course, the app should be a bit playful in order to foster citizens' involvement and to gather the feedback to inform real estate developers, architects, and public administrations to, let's say, provide a tool for giving people a voice before going to construct. This is how the app works. As you can see, I am in a parking, but through the device, I can envision the future condition, and I can provide some feedback when I encounter a relevant perspective or a relevant issue that I would like to address. And through the questionnaire, it is possible to have some relevant data to analyze. This is the event we did the last year with people, and this is how they were, let's say, engaged by using the app, and how the app itself was fostering some collaboration among participants. This is another shot explaining the way it works. And to conclude, these are the possible outcomes that we are able to achieve through the usage of the app. We can, for instance, evaluate and assess the emotional reaction, the main emotional reactions of people, and we also can compare this reaction according to the different location of the person in space. We can understand the cognitive understanding of people of the layout of the city, and also we can evaluate the intensity of emotion and cognitive understanding. And moreover, we can not only produce charts, but we can either measure with numbers this reaction, and we can also spatialize the results in maps in order to show the geography of the perceived city. And this is done, of course, to inform all the actors involved in the design process, and especially designers and public administration, in order to provide a city that with a win-win, in a win-win perspective, where all the needs are accomplished. And so a design of the city a tool for the future, considering the people of today and the people of tomorrow, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, for another very interesting talk. So, so please give another applause to the two speakers. It's very interesting. So, as you can see,
you are mute. You are mute. We cannot listen.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. As you can see,
you have to unmute this.
I already. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Right. So as you can see, that now we have just listened to two speakers. So they give very interesting presentation, and they are different and complementary to each others. So as you can see, that for example, like Stevens, I really like your presentation. As you know, that there are a lot of smart city advocates out there who and project and people who focus strongly on technology, purely on technology. But we all share in this forum. We all share the idea that technology is not all; it's just a tool, And we also share that is the approach of human centers. And so your presentation actually reminds me about some of the greatest urbanist advocates like Jane Jacobs, like Jan Gehl, or like Peter Kashoff in America, or most recently like the Jeff, like the young guys, the Jeff Speck, for example. Like so, they all, like a small group of people who are actually advocating and try to shift people back, from the too much technology focus. So you are one of another person, and I really like it, and it's really relevant to the context of Vietnam and Ho Chi Minh City. And Barbara, you also gave a very interesting talk on AI, AR, and VR, which is quite rising technology, and also it's all those they are heavily technology, but I can see that they have the human centers or kind of the approach, urbanist approach. Why, for example, like most recently, the discussion in Japan, people talk about disability. People talk about people in the hospital who can't travel, who can move around, or the children, who has been hospitalized, and all they want is to travel or to see different things. So with the technology, with AI, with VR or AR, they are able to experience the world which they can't see. And also, it's also very relevant to historical city, where you can actually integrate with the history, bring history into the modern. So it is really a great approach. So thank you very much. I would like to ask both of you. So as I just discussed just now, so the common approach by smart city, when people talk about smart city, right away they think about technology. It's become a common mindset. How do we somehow to appeal people, and how can we balance between urbanist approach and technology approach? How can we balance between physical development and cyber development, and make them merge and interact with each other to support our world to become a better place, become a better future city? Stephen, maybe you can share your thought for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, happily. I mean, it's very important to realize we are in an age where we are using the branding smart city, much like we did about 15 years ago when we had eco city. Do you remember that era? Right. And how many eco cities did we really build? Maybe one somewhere. We're still looking for it. The important thing is that smart city, the application of technology has to be balanced and actually has to be managed by people. One of the things, I mean, I had to give a master's course just today in 15 minutes. We really could talk about this for 2 years. But the bottom line is people have to be involved in better decision making and adopting better lifestyle. That is what really is smart about smart city planning. And so we have to really acknowledge that it all really comes back down to us. Barbara's technology is going to help us realize some of the decisions that we are making at very high level, bringing that down to the pedestrian level or to the community level is going to be really important for us to realize in advance what the implications and the impacts of those decisions are going to be short term and even long term. I'm very excited. I wish we could almost adopt a digital twin right now for Ho Chi Minh City so we can, every proposal that comes along, we can look at it in real time, in real life, and realize what that's going to be in terms of long-term impact. Barbara,
Yes, thank you.
anything to add?
Yeah, Barbara, please.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Thank you. As you were mentioning, I think that technology is a tool and should be intended.
Barbara,
as a
you are
tool.
mute. You please unmute.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. You unmute and mute it. You mute, unmute, and you know, just
yeah.
practice like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you hear me now? Anne, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, I was saying that as we were mentioning before, technology is a tool and should be conceived as a tool. It's a very important and very useful tool, but it's a tool. And as a tool, there's the research on it, and we will see more integrated, innovative devices in our city, and not only in the city, probably with wearables and the future of wearables. We also will be much more connected as we are, so we can have a responsive city that reacts to people and environmental needs in a dynamic and in a dynamic way. So a city that evolves according to the specific conditions. So I think we are going already the direction in the right direction of integration between the two. But of course, as Stephen was mentioning, the important thing is to have clear in mind that the goal is not the technology itself, but is the environment and people living the environment, the two things together. We have to conceive these two things as two inseparable elements of the same unity, and we have to address this in a very clever way. We have to define the main goal of our evolution, and the technology is the tool for achieving that goal and not the opposite. We do not have, of course, to follow technology, but we have to decide where we would like to go. We have to strategize our future. And I think that Stephen gave very relevant points that address this, the way we have to consider the development of city from the urban perspective. So integration versus segregation and all the other things he mentioned before. So the last thing I would like to remember to note is that in all these processes of integration with technology and exchange and the relevant issue of data exchange, there's a great implication from the ethical perspective. And it is not only, cannot be anymore only an urban perspective. It is much more wider. It has to include a discussion among different disciplines, so philosophy, law, politics, and so on, economy, of course. There's a lot of implication in this development. So what I believe is that we have to strongly collaborate with each other, with this interdisciplinary perspective, which means that we have to start speaking, let's say, start to find a language that enable us to speak properly one with the other, since there are barriers in the way we approach our.
Thank you, Barbara. Hello. Can you hear? Yes. Thank you, Barbara and Stephen. So yeah, I can pick up some of the keywords. So smart city should be run by smart people. I really like it. It's really like a green city should be run by green people and not ungreen people, right? And also, Barbara mentioned about collaboration and stakeholders. You know, then I all agree with that. So I'm seeing that we have another discussant, Mr. Iscm-Ueh, who is sitting right next to Stephen, the very young and rising administrator from Ho Chi Minh City. Well, Iscm-Ueh is also my friend, and I have known him for a few years. And recently, Kian, so I know that you have been doing some great initiative for Smart City for Ho Chi Minh City, and for those work, your work has been well regarded and also got attention from mass media in Vietnam. So congratulations for your great initiatives, and perhaps you can share with us, with all of us, some of your wrap up some of your work. That's a very key contents. And also, perhaps you can comment how Ho Chi Minh City may learn from some ideas from these two presentations today.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tukin. Hello. Firstly, I would like to thank Mr. Tuan for inviting me to here and share some of our work in Department of Planning and Architecture. Okay, so the topic today is about smart city. Let's talk about smart city. In the previous presentation, you have seen a lot of information and how smart city can contribute to enhancing the living standards or enhancing the qualities of living in the city. I would like to show you some of our works that we work in the last few years that serve for the Ho Chi Minh City citizens. Let's talk about smart city. Many people talk about smart cities in the last few years. And I think smart city is one of the most confusing terminologies. Many people think that the smart city is only about technologies, it's about sensors, but actually it's not. And Mr. Steven and Ms. Barbara have shown you. Smart city is not only about technologies, but it's about how we use technologies. It's only a tool, and we are living in an era of that technologies appear everywhere around us. We have too many tools to have too many technology that we can use. Even a lot of open source technologies or free tool. And the problem is how we can use the tool to serve for what we need. And in government sector, the citizens is the centers of our work. And today we will show you three applications that we developed in the last few years. The first one is the online urban planning application. The second one is the planning management platform that's used by my department. And the last one is the virtual reality model for urban planning. Okay. We can, yeah. Could you turn it back a little? At the beginning, maybe. Beginning. Yeah, this is the online online urban planning information application. I think that some of you in this room used it before. Yeah, with Stephen. It has been developed 2 years ago and has been enhanced from that. And up to now, this application have more than $400,000 in both of iOS and Android platform, and it served for more than 5 million plus of sessions during the last 2 years. It's a huge number, and somehow it's a revolution for the in urban planning information service of government in Ho Chi Minh City. Now we can see that it's something like a new standard, but actually 2 years ago, it's something that many people cannot imagine that will happen. Yeah. And the second session, we're going too far, but yeah, it's movie, so just follow that. But the second one is the planning management platform that you may saw with some minutes before. But that is internal application for my department that use GIS data and ICTs to build a dashboard and a system that's for the staff of Department of Planning and Architecture. Yeah, this is it. So in this application, we use an approach called analysis ready data. It means we made the analysis ready for on-off staff, so staff do not necessary to make the analysis, but they use it by in this in the application, and it can have our staff to do their work better. Yeah. We have a lot of the GIS data here, like the demographic data, population. We have remote sensing analysis. We have many kind of data that can be used for urban planning management and analysis. And actually, it helps us a lot. And the third one, what we are seeing here is a record of the virtual reality model of the HIID. This is a highly interactive and innovative city. We usually call it Eastern City. It's đô thị sáng tạo phía Đông. Okay. And actually, this is how it may become in the next decades. In the last 2 years, I think that also of you have heard a lot about HIID, but I think that there are very few of you have imagined how it will become in the future. And this is a new approach that we developed in DPA that can allow people to experience the urban planning model as it was planned by using the VR toolset. And you see, those of these models are not built, but generated based on data, based on urban planning data. It's not only the model that you build randomly or just for illustration, but it was processed by data and it illustrates correctly how the urban planning will become. We use the edge data and a technology called processing modeling, especially city engine software to build based on that data and the code that we build and generate this model, 200 square kilometer. Yeah, and honestly, it's very interesting, and you can. And so I would like to repeat to mention a concept that has been mentioned before by Stephen and Barbara. The human is the center for the city and for urban planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Kian. I totally agree with your last comment on the two speakers' presentation. So So we should put human people and the community and all the stakeholder in the center of the game, in order to, and also try to generate all the resources and make the best for our urban future. So now I would like to introduce the last discussant, Ms. Julia Babcock. Briefly, as a brief introduction, she has 15 years in the field of public service, with a focus on sustainable development and collaborative governance. And she also had a track record of 10 years in Vietnam, working with partner agencies like UN Habitat, USAID, and State Department. And she also had a very strong community-based education. And she's now working for Portland State University in the US. So Barbara, so thank you very much for joining our panel discussion. And probably, please, due to the time discussion, it's very limited. So probably we will have about 3 minutes for you to, let's say, share a little bit about the context of US and how do you relate that to Vietnam?
Great, thank you. And I really value the time with these speakers and the audience today, so thank you. And I'll be quick. So I'm going to give a quick case study of Portland. And I am typically in Vietnam in the summers teaching community development classes. So sort of low-tech ways of social networking, but really important for the students to understand Vietnam's resilience. And so I've been thinking about that a lot this year with all the floods and storms for my friends in Da Nang and Quang Nam. So Portland in the US is really known for being an eco-friendly city. It was really a pioneer in sustainability and was
Hello.
Equity Atlas, and learning that a lot of folks were not getting access to the new parks and new green buildings. And right now, during the COVID lockdown, we've really seen the digital divide stop the access to education for students of low-income households that simply don't have appropriate technologies at home to be able to access kind of their basic needs. And this summer, Portland saw over 100 days of social unrest in looking at racial injustice from policing. And so when Smart City PDX came online, they wanted to take the lessons from sustainability initiatives to make sure that they started from an equity perspective and really centering, as you said, around humans and also those that are underserved in the communities, to make sure that the technologies that they introduced were accessible to all. And so that's really where Smart City PDX started. And just for context,
excuse me to interrupt you, but you have some visual to show, right?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I was in presentation mode, but it wasn't showing.
You can continue to talk and show some of the visuals. You need to talk by yourself here. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I thought you could see that. So this was the Central Vietnam slide, and then the digital divide, and here's the picture of the protests. Can you see that now?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, so Smart City PDX, as I said, really started with the underserved communities. And just for context, it's about $60 a month per household for Wi-Fi. So there's a large digital divide of people that simply can't have access to Wi-Fi, especially right now. So as part of the COVID crisis, the thing that Smart City PDX prioritized was getting technology kits to vulnerable communities. And so they've been deploying those. And my last point is the other thing that they learned in these focus groups and having a more human-centered design approach was to ban facial recognition technology. So Portland was one of the first cities in the US to do that in response to having a participatory process with the community and thinking about what their priorities were and where their feeling of the data that they were taking from them, making sure that it didn't get into the wrong hands. So that's kind of a quick overview.
Great. So, any message for Vietnam that you would like to convey?
I think that the digital divide is still relevant in Vietnam. And so I think doing your research on who has access to these different technology platforms before they get left behind and all these great smart city technologies is really important first step.
Yeah, great. So we don't have much time left. So I would like, I know that the audience probably from you may have some really like a burning question to ask the speakers. So maybe can we pick up one or two questions from the auditorium, please?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kian. I think anybody in the room want to have the question with our panelists, like Stephen, Mr. Kian, or Julia, or Barbara. So you can just give the hands. It seems that nobody wants to ask.
Anybody?
I said nobody wants to.
Could I ask?
If nobody, probably
Stephen, we want to. Stephen,
Don't be shy, really. This is a workshop. Not Barbara, Julia, sorry. So did I hear you correctly? You guys decided to do a ban on facial recognition. I think that's amazing. That's true, right?
Yeah, we were the second or third city to do it, but it was really in response to this digital divide work group looking at vulnerable communities and asking them where they were most sensitive. And with all the police violence issues that were going on, the city really wanted to be proactive and respond.
I think that's heroic, and I think it's a really excellent example of how people are taking charge of the technology. This is us. We still have to realize we have the power of controlling how we use that technology. And I think in that particular case, as in the case of Hong Kong, where I've lived for 20 years, we now have applications on our phones where we can identify people that we think are suspicious to the mainland government. And people are using that app to actually frame up people who may be actually innocent, but for some reason have come into a negative light by people that are using the app. So sometimes technology can be abused. And I think this is a heroic decision on a city saying, look, we're not going to deal with that. We're going to put it under control.
Great. Probably so we have had a really great discussion just now, and I think time is coming up, so I would like to wrap up a little bit. So probably today we've learned too many things from many very key points that Stephen or Barbara have addressed, and also case studies from around the world, from the US, from the European context, with the relevances, with the kind of reflection to Vietnam. So we all have learned something from this discussion. And I think that from the discussion, we can see that human-centered approach and the importance of putting people into the center of the game, and also how to really involve everyone in the processes, to really have the ownership of the ideas and to make the contribution to is really important. And why I'm saying that, because there is the common mindset that smart city development is a responsibility by the government, and so it really like a big burden for the government in terms of financial resources to prepare, and also the human resources, right, very limited. So why not we open up the game and really as I understand from DPA, where Kian's coming from, that DPA only do the thing that other stakeholders don't do, especially investor don't do. I think that I've just learned recently, and that is a great approach by the DPA, Ho Chi Minh City DPA. It's really smart, and I would say. So thank you very much for the very, very interesting discussion. And please, Give everyone a big hand of applause. And now I give the floor back to Dr. Tu Anh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kian, for the moderator, and also thank you very much for the owner of our panelists, Stephen, Mr. Kian, Barbara, and Julia, because I think today we had a very good panel discussion because we had the people from the different fields and also from the different level. We had the Mr. Kian representative for the local authority. We had the Barbara represent for the academic, the institution, and we also had the Stephen and also present for the company. We also had the Julia also present for the government and also the university. So I think it's really very nice that we also had a very short time to discuss about the Smart City Initiative, talking about the urban transformation and technology, how to apply the technology tool, and in the end we can get the target that to enhance the urban quality. So thank you very much for all of the panelists, the moderator, and all of the people, the participants in the room, online and offline. And I hope that you also share and get some information. And I hope that it's only the end of the first section. For the Smart City Plus initiative, we also had the second one after the tea break. We call human-centered approach. So I hope that you will stay more time and sharing with our topic. So thank you very much for your attention. So I hope that we have I'm so sorry from Barbara and Julia and Kian that we cannot give the flower to you. We can give the online flower, right? So here we have some small gift from the UEH to two of you. So please, on the stage.
Yeah. And thank you to you too, and thank you to you too, and for the great organization.
Thank you very much, Tu Anh and ISCM. Thank you all the speakers and discussants.
Thank you, Dr. Tu Anh. The Quick-On platform worked very well.
Okay. Okay, so now we have the tea break outside, so you can just enjoy a little bit for the tea break and go back for the second section. And in the end of the section, when you go down to the exhibition room, you also can see that we have some exhibition to apply the VR and also gamification and also Lego on the urban simulation and also smart city. You also can take a look on the VR for the city we call Thủ Đức City. That no, it's not Thủ Đức, it's Eastern, right? It's the Eastern City from the Dr. Kian and the team built up in the ground floor. Okay, so please enjoy your tea break outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you, Tuan.
Barbara, I'm going to have to look at your slides again. That was a lot of new information for me, but I really liked the models that you shared and just the emotional gradient that you were showing. I'm going to have to really look at that in more detail.
Yes, let me. Do you hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
yes,
I can hear you.
Yeah, sure. It would be a pleasure. I can send you some more information.
Yeah, thank you. I loved how you showed the application of your augmented reality. That was great. Oh, our screens are freezing.
Hello? Anybody there? Do you hear me?
Hi, Dwayne, can you hear me?
Oh, sound interesting. Perfect. Yes, I can hear. Sir,
Uh,
sir, do you hear me? Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. So welcome back to the second section with the title Human-Centered Approach on the series events Smart City+ Initiative. So today I feel very happy that to host to all of you here to sharing with all of the topic. And we know that smart city is not only about the technology, it's not only the urban planning or design or the overview. Smart city is also target to the people and how to make the urban quality of life is getting better. So today in this section, we warmly welcome all of our panelists and moderator from New Zealand, from Vietnam, from Australia, from Belgium, and Philippines, and South Korea. So please welcome our active and beautiful moderator, Dr. Idelina Matteo Barbiano. Delhi is a senior lecturer in urban planning at the Melbourne School of the Design, University of Melbourne, Australia. She is an architect, urban planner, and transport planner by training. She teaches urban design for people and place making for the built environment and city without slums. Her research focuses on the improving our understanding of how people interact with the place to create unique challenges and alternatives for positive place-based change. She also leads the Women in Transport Leadership in Australia Knowledge Network and is part of the Collaborative Place Agency organization. So please enjoy the discussion from the different parts of the different fields of the smart city. So Delhi, now is your stage.
Okay. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. So I am Gurley, as Tuan mentioned earlier, and I am an academic from the University of Melbourne. I will be your moderator for this afternoon session, second panel discussion titled "Human-Centered Approach," and I am now presenting from Melbourne, Australia. So before I go on further, I would like to first acknowledge that I'm presenting on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders both past, present, and emerging. So especially in this time of COVID, we recognize the important role played by technology in enabling communication, interaction, businesses, among others. So early on in the development of COVID, we recognize the role of technology in driving and transforming smart cities. So we praise the role of technology to transform cities into more efficient, technologically adept, and driven centers and innovators. So according to urban strategist Boyd Cohen, there are 3 generations of smart cities. So the first one, which is, I think everyone's familiar, is a technology-centric vision of smart cities led by major technology companies to improve and make efficient cities. And so it's focused mainly on growing jobs and the economy. So Smart Cities 2.0, on the other hand, are government-led vision of utilizing technology solutions as enablers for improving quality of life. So we now are in the Smart Cities 3.0. And what does that mean? So it's focused on a citizen or human-centric vision of smart cities based on co-creation with citizens to improve the quality of life and generate prosperity. So the focus really on citizen co-creation, right? So leading smart cities like Medellin in Colombia, who are beginning to embrace citizen co-creation models to help drive the next generation of smart cities. So we need to acknowledge the important role of citizen-focused strategies in smart city development. And we need to shift our focus from a technology-driven approach to collective intelligence as the most relevant success factor so far. So I think a lot of researchers have already touched upon this. And one of the concepts that has been put forward is the concept of sensible city, right? So in the next 30 minutes, we have 2 wonderful presenters that we will be listening in. So and then later on, we will have a moderator-curated panel discussion, wherein we then welcome 2 more discussants into the group. So first now, I would like to welcome our first presenter, Professor Davy Janssens. So Davy is Vice Director of the Transportation Research Institute, Hasselt University in Belgium. He completed his PhD at Hasselt University in 2005. His major area of interest is situated within the application domain of travel behavior and in developing scientifically supported innovative solutions in the domain. So one of his core applications or solutions he has been developing over the past few years is within the field of traffic safety in school environments. And this is the focus of his presentation today. So Davy also published more than 130 peer-reviewed articles in Web of Science. Science has an H-index of 18 and participated in more than 35 PhD commissions. So in the next 15 minutes, we will hear from Davy as he presents his topic titled Child-Friendly Cities, the Case of Innovation in Traffic Safety. Davy, please.
Okay, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me and see my presentation. Good, let's make this maximized. Okay. Okay, very good. Good. Today I'm going to talk about child-friendly cities, and I'm more specifically going to talk about the case of innovation in the topic of traffic safety, right? First I will try to explain you a little bit about what child-friendly cities is, in my opinion, in our opinion, in the opinion of the UNICEF initiative. Then I will talk about traffic safety, why it's such a problem, and then I will present some innovation in this field, right? So first of all, let's start with some kind of definition, which is also adopted by the UNICEF initiative. And that's basically saying that a child-friendly city is a local system of good governance committed to fulfilling children's rights. So it means, what is important in this definition, it means good governance, right? So you need to have a city which adopts the best principles of governance and which is going to enable every child to deploy and to exploit its own capabilities. That's basically what it says. And when you think about good governance, there's in fact one core concept about this in this definition, and this is all about participation and citizenship, right? If you give children a voice, if you let people participate in the environment they live in, they're going to adopt that environment much better. They're going to feel better. They're going to, let's say, experience the whole environment. So this whole concept of participation and citizenship is very important in this domain of child-friendly cities. Of course, we also want to do this, or we mainly want to do this participation and citizenship concepts in order to achieve some higher order goals. And one of the higher order goals is, of course, the topic of sustainability, right? We all want to behave in a sustainable way such that our future generations can also, let's say, benefit from the quality of life which we have today. And in the concept of traffic safety, this exists, of course. You have, in fact, the model split, right? So the way how people use their transport modes, that's an important concept in mobility. We all want to travel less by car and more by sustainable transport modes, but also in other science domains, this exists, of course. So the next bullet point is mentioned a little bit, the different things which people can do in order to actively engage in their own environment. And like I said, it has to do with environment, it has to do with traffic safety, it has to do with participation. And what I mainly want to emphasize now is, of course, in one specific domain of this concept, and that's the concept of traffic safety. And I want to show you some ideas which we have right now, which are not theory, but let's say which are really practical and by means of an approach that can be adopted now, right? So we don't want to just give you the only theory concept. We also want to explain that things can be done today already, and you will see this after by the end of this talk also. So let me first briefly say something about traffic safety in Vietnam. Unfortunately, that this is still a very huge problem in Vietnam. Approximately 8,000 people die every year, according to recent studies in 2019. 21 people per day, so that's huge. The main, let's say, age group where the most deaths are occurring is in the age group of 15 to 29 years. And the main reason, or there are several reasons, but one of the reasons is driving awareness, problems with unawareness of the traffic law, road law violations, sign and lane violation, and also because road law is still unofficial in the education program in school. So there are a lot of, I would say, areas for improvement, for improving traffic safety in Vietnam. And what you can see on the right-hand side of the screen here is, let's say, the effect of what policies can do, right? If you see here in 2008, the road traffic law was adopted in Vietnam, and also a new resolution in 2012. And you can see here the, let's say, the points indicated by the arrows. And you can see here that there's, after this adoption, you see a more, let's say, significant drop in the number of traffic accidents in Vietnam. So the message to take away from this picture is that governments and policy making can have a huge impact. So we don't have to think in a fatalistic way, and we don't have to think that we can't do anything. No, especially governments and also we as scientists and the whole community can have a huge impact. That's my message today. Of course, also one of the important things in looking for a sustainable future is the importance of education programs, right? Because what we learn children today will have an impact on how they behave tomorrow, right? And we should start today for having a better and safer tomorrow. That's in fact our goal. So what we propose for Vietnam and for some joint efforts we have been doing with Dr. Tuan is also to let's say come with a proposed collaborations framework for Vietnam. And what we mainly want is, we don't want to give you or to give the children more textbook materials. They already have enough of that, we think. But we want to look for a scalable solution. So this means a solution which is driven by software, which everyone can use, and which also can create impact. Because we believe that only through software, we are able to change the future in a significant way, right? Because if you have a software which you can, let's say, adopt and use in one particular region, you can easily reuse it in another region, and then more children become, let's say, traffic safety aware, and the principles which are learned in the software are also, let's say, distributed to other children, and this helps a lot in order to come with a scalable solution. So what we want to do is we want to establish a joint collaboration framework to improve traffic safety in Vietnam by means of what we call an innovative user participation approach. So we want to give children a voice, we want to give parents a voice, and we want to do that by means of a solution that can be used right now. We don't want to, of course, and especially not us as scientists, I think, we don't want to underestimate the importance of research. Research is very important in order to, let's say, shape the future. But we also think that we need to come up with practical solutions which can be used right now, and not only through papers and textbooks and studies. No, we want to give you something which can really be used right now. So how can we do this? And what we have in mind is, in fact, the topic of citizen science. I don't know whether you are aware of this, but citizen science, in fact, give every participant in your regions, make it some kind of small citizen, scientist, sorry. So every citizen should become a small scientist, which means that he can collect some data of his own and share that data with us. And with that data, we can make better decisions. And what you can see here is a screenshot of a program which was done in Belgium. It's a youth program about traffic pollution. So in fact, every dot you can see here was an inhabitant, a person who has put a device on his wall and measured exposure and emission exposure, right? So there was a device, and you need to put it on your home, on your house, and then you could calculate how many exposure bad pollutants were, let's say, measured at that location. And because of this, you can create a nationwide map which everyone participated to. Right? So citizens here shaped this whole map and made this. If we as scientists need to do this by our own, right? It would take us ages, it would take us years to do this, right? And now every inhabitant is able to contribute to this domain, right? And this was in the domain of environment, but we can also, of course, do this in the domain of traffic safety. And what we want to do here is we want to create in the domain of traffic safety and children, of course, their main habitat is the school environment. So what we want to do is we want to solve the traffic safety problem in school environment. And we believe that we should do this in a personalized manner because no school environment is the same. And we should involve not only children, by the way, but all stakeholders. It means also schools, parents, cities, governments, and local businesses. Everyone should participate in solving this problem because children alone, of course, cannot solve this problem. So we as a society have a responsibility, a joint responsibility in solving this traffic safety problem. So we focus on three what you call stakeholder markets. The first is governments and cities. The second is the schools. And the third one is the companies and parents also who live in that school. So what we did is we created products, and the two main products which I'm going to talk about today is what we call Route to School Map and Route to School Education. And Route to School Map is a crowdsourcing tool where participants can, let's say, mention all the different problems they encounter when they travel to schools. So it's a crowdsourcing tool, so that means that every participant can mention and let us know the difficult problems they have when they go to school. Just like the emission map you saw some seconds ago, right? Every participant can measure emissions. Here, every participant can tell us which problems are difficult and which they encounter when they travel to school. The second project and product we are going to briefly present is the Route to School Education platform, which means that we are going to target the target groups of schools. So we're going to bring innovation here in their, let's say, stakeholder market, and I will explain you in a moment what that is, right? So let's become a bit more practical and concrete. So what we did is for the Route to School Map application, we developed an application which is both coming with a mobile application, so you can see a smartphone there on the left-hand side, and a web application, so you can see the login screen. It's a bit distorted, but I think you can see it. A web application through which you can log in to the Route to School platform. And if you do that, you can, in fact, let us know all the different problems which people have when they travel to school. So it means that you can say here, for instance, on I don't know whether you can see my arrow, but anyway, you can here report the different means of transport that you experience when you have a problem. So you can say I go by walking, or by foot, or by bike, or by car, and I select the typical problem which I have. I do a description of the problem, so I can explain what my problem is, and I can also come with a solution, what I think can be done to improve this problem. And then I can pinpoint here on the map, so I can click here on the map. If I do that, a Street View, a Google Street View picture will open, and you're able to accurately pinpoint the location by means of a picture. So if we do this, we have a lot of information already. We have the transport mode, we have the description, we have the solution, we have the problem type, we have the picture. So these are 5 dimensions which we have per point which people report. So unlike in the emission map which I showed you in the beginning, you only have one measurement of emissions. Here you have 5 dimensions of this problem, right? So you have picture, description, solution, type of transport, and problem type. So these are different dimensions. So it also means that children can actively participate and let us know which locations they find dangerous in their daily trips to school. We don't only have locations, but we also have route segments, which means a whole section of a route which is typically labeled as unsafe. So for instance, if there is no bicycle path for 5 kilometers, you can say here that this whole segment is sometimes unsafe or very dangerous for traveling along this traffic road. So it's not only points, not only locations, but also segments, right? And by doing this, you can end up with a full map of your region. And you can say, I have locations, segments, I can add other data layers to this kind of map, like for instance, geographical information, like the locations of the schools, which you can see here, or any other type of GIS information you want to add to this system. So in fact, you can create here then this output map, and we call this also a digital map. This map is not disappearing, right? So it is there, it is online, and people can also maintain this map. They can change the statuses of the different points, they can change the routes if things are improved, and so on and so forth. So it also becomes a communication device, a communication material with your end users, right? So we believe we have a strong, let's say, product here. What is it? What makes it unique? We have a crowdsourcing tool, which is actively involving stakeholders and give parents and children a voice. We can report mobility bottlenecks, we can report route segments, and we are able to bundle all this information in a communication platform which comes unlocked by means of a digital school map. Right? So, like I said, I would like to briefly mention two products here. The first one I just mentioned was the Route to School map environment. The other one is more like a learning environment for children, because when you, let's say, label all these problems, it's not enough, right? It's not enough, and not all problems can be solved through infrastructure. It's not as easy as, let's say, painting the road, improving a traffic infrastructure problem, and then the problem is gone. No, we also need education. We also need, let's say, sustainable solutions for children for the future. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if the student could co-create and co-shape this content, which is made dependent on their specific living environment. So it means that we want to have a learning environment where people can also learn about their own environment. And this is really innovative, right? We want to show, let's say, learning material through the software, which is, let's say, given to us by the students, and the students give us their, let's say, learning environment, and we can ask questions about this environment. So this results in what we call a context-dependent content, where students feel and experience the innovation, since the educational program is specific to their own living environment. And this is really innovative, we think. So we want to start from the Route to School map, transfer all these dangerous paths and routes to a learning environment, ask additional input by the children and the parents, and then come up with this kind of software. And you can see here on the different, let's say, the different steps of the software. On the left-hand side, you can see that the software, I can't read Vietnamese, but I know what is in there. You can see that there is an introduction, that there is a knowledge module, that there is a risk awareness, risk management module, there is a finale, and so on and so forth. A final. So in fact, this is what we call a unique e-learning platform, which is easy, simple to implement on a regular basis. This platform exists already right now. We have done some pre-tests in Vietnam also, by the way, and we are now acquiring some additional insights and results. On the third screen, on the third image, I would say you can see here an example of a question which is included in such a software. And since we are dealing with children, of course, we want to give them prizes. They can collect badges when they have done something right, and so on and so forth, right? It's also important to emphasize that there is no extra workload for children and teachers. You can do this at home, for instance. Also in this COVID times, this is important, we think, to have a digital platform. So here are some features mentioned. We already said that it will be about risk detection, risk management, situation awareness, skills, and knowledge. It's context relevant. I already explained that. So it comes from their own environment and their own situations. We want to add also innovation here, like 360-degree pictures where students can turn around and look in the environment. In this context, we're also doing a new PhD with Dr. Tuvan in the context of virtual reality and augmented reality. This is also a hot topic, and we want to explore further, incorporate it into the platform, improve our gamification, and we want to, let's say, improve different challenges there. User perspective, we of course deal not only with bikes and motorbikes and e-bikes, also Cars are included and other modes of transport. And important, it can be done immediately, it's user-friendly, no extra workload for the teacher, there are feedback reporting and can be practiced anytime at home. So the last slide I have is what we want to do for the future. So we plan to have a campaign launching next year in Vietnam, where we have some, let's say, initiatives or people who are going to host this framework. This is the ISCM, the organizer, IMOP, the Transportation Research Institute in Belgium. It's a spin-off who is licensing the software for this campaign period. The educational department in Ho Chi Minh City we have an agreement with, and the National Traffic Safety Committee as well. So we want to do this in Ho Chi Minh for a period of 5 weeks approximately next year. Of course, we're still developing the program and we aim to launch it in September 2021, so next year, and we want to have some online and offline competitions and have some rewards for children as well. And our goal is, of course, to promote road safety and to look for long-term partners who think this is a good and sustainable, let's say, idea for Ho Chi Minh. Okay, I hope I did not talk too long, so thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for that very informative and interesting presentation, Davey. So let us give Professor Davey a big round of applause. Okay, so now we move to our next presenter. So we welcome Mr. Huy Le. Huy is the Chief Officer, Card and Digital Bank Division at the Saigon Commercial Bank in Vietnam. Mr. Huy Le is a pioneering leader, recognized as a very experienced and knowledgeable financial services professional with more than 20 years developing financial services industry in Vietnam. Huy Le holds a master's in science and a bachelor in science in artificial intelligence from the University of Natural Science, VNU of Ho Chi Minh City. He is also a fellow Life Management Institution of LOMA or LOMA, and an accredited mediator by Center for Effective Dispute Resolution, UK. So in the next 15 minutes, we will hear from our second presenter, Huy, as he presents his topic titled Lifestyle, Well-Being, Wealth, Healthy Finances Lead to a Healthier Life. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I would like to present to you just because I have been spending a lot of time in the financial services in Vietnam. So I would like to introduce to you what does it mean in the smart city, and in the smart cities, the financial, how is the financial? Because when we talk about the smart city, it means that we need to improve the quality of life of the people in the city. So to me, I want to talk about the topic of the financial will impact into the physical health of the person. So first of all, the research keeps saying that there is a very close link between the financial health of the person and also with the physical health of the persons. I think it's very easy to understand. If you don't have any money in the pockets, I mean, you could be very stressful. Especially when you got a family to support. I think that's very, very obviously to understand. And especially for those who already have a loan or a mortgage with the bank, and it's time for you to conduct the payments, and you not have the money, then I believe you will be very stressful. Some of the kind of stress is good for health, but normally stress is not good for health because it will create a lot of the disease. So there could be some more things that we can talk on. Some of the research from the bank indicates that the 81% that we have in here found that they could be easier for them to achieve their personal goal when their financial they have good financial conditions. And the 70% also state that the good financial health also have a very positive impact to their physical health. So when it comes to conclusions, there could be several do's that we need to be followed, and I will lead you to what does it mean. So there could be we should come into the what we call the financial planning. And the first one could be we need to draft for the budget. So I believe that more of you in here could be a student, but then I'm not sure how are you now, but when I was a student, I also need to do the financial planning for myself. So I got a scholarship, how I should be spending. I got money, I'm teaching, so I'm working, and then I need to be very clear how much money I need to spend and how much money I should be reserved for, a study or I'm just buying book. The second dues is that to avoid the pilot mode. It means that you let your money be, so you can spend without any planning. And the other suggestion, number 3, could be that you should have a saving. The next one could be avoid bad debt. I believe that if some of you have some, using some service from the bank, then it means that the bad debt is mean that you cannot pay back to the bank. And also reduce the debt. In this today world, I think that many people having the credit card. So and especially in the Westerns, so people have the credit card and they just think that they got the money and they're easy to pay. And then some of them will need to pay the interest and they could accumulate it from month after month. So the suggestion is that you choose planning and reduce your debt and put more money into the investment. And the last one could be have the safety net in place. What does it mean? It means that many people spend, I think most of you go on the street and on the motorbike, especially in Vietnam. And then the obligation that you need to have the bike insurance. But I don't think so. I believe that all of you who have bike, travel on the street, should have the car insurance or bike insurance. But I don't think most of you have the insurance for yourself. Is that correct? But that's the reason why that the penetration for insurance, life insurance in Vietnam is always less than 10%. Compared to the developed country, it could be normally about 90%. So does it mean that when you're thinking about the spending your money or you thinking about the put on your money into something else like a car or buy insurance or something else, you are the values and you should also have the protection for yourself. So let me share with you, because it's my experience and I work in financial services. So if one of the businessmen, if he want to get a loan from the bank, for example, he want to get 10 billion Vietnam dong for his business, the bank normally asks him that, do you have a life insurance? Why? Because the bank is not worried that he not pay back to the bank, but the bank worried that he's not survive until the day he can complete the payment. So that's why if he got a life insurance, it means that if he die accidentally, so the insurance company can pay back to the bank. So that's the reason why. So now I come to another the stake that because we are in the concept in the teams of the smart city, right? So then we come, this is the platform for the smart city that we already shared before, that we have all kinds of the sustainable development, citizen well-being, lifestyle, all kinds of things. So let me check how many of you here have wearing the smartwatch. How many of you? 5%, 10%? Your smart. I see some of you here having smartwatch. What does it mean? Let me come into that, because I could say directly here that in developed countries. So when we talking about the smart city, it's talking about the lifestyle of the person as well. So lifestyle, what does it mean? So you're taking exercise, how many minutes per day? You measure with your smartwatch. I believe that should be measure your heart rate, your blood, your oxygen consumption, all kinds of things. And life insurance use that information. Not here in Vietnam because it's not connected, it's not integrated. But in developed country, it's the insurance company use information to pricing your life insurance policy. I will talk with you more later on. So we're talking about I just focus on the lifestyle of the person. I'm not talking about the technology that helping to improve the lifestyle and the quality of life. So in here, we're talking about the smart technology potentially could be dramatically reduce risk for a vehicle and proper improve the human health and well-being. So have you, I believe that could be almost, I hope so, almost all of you understand that the car today have a protection. For example, the car in Vietnam, I'm not talking anywhere. So in Vietnam, if one of the car travel on the road, and if a person just suddenly, and it happened a lot in Vietnam, one of the child just cross the street accidentally, the car could stop. How many of you aware of that technology today? I believe that, I hope that could be more than 50%. It happened here, and I believe it happened could be about at least 30%. The technology could be already on the car. So those technology will have to protect the human life. And when I come to the car, so it's not happened yet in Vietnam, because the reason why that I hope when it comes to your generation, you will have to put all of the data together that already happened in developed countries. In developed country, the data could be collected. So if you got accident more often than the others, you got to pay life insurance or car insurance higher than the others. So let me take an example. For example, when you have a car and you want to have the protection insurance, right? Is the obligation. So a normal person, you got to pay $10. But then, I mean, if you have more accident, you got to pay maybe $15 compared to the others. So who don't have any car accident, maybe just pay $9. So that's it. So when we talk about smart city, there could be many of smart, and I just focus on the smart finance. So smart finance means that we they use the data for the data risk analysis. So it means I'm going to say with you, it could be on your behavior. It could collect all the data and then we'll give it back to you. So one of the very easy example is that every morning when you go out on the street, the Grab or the bike or the bee, they open the map, and the map will tell them if there could be the roads could be busy or not. So it's based on the data they collect and put it back to the Google. So the other thing, it could be the database insurance that I'm really saying with you. Next one could be dynamic pricing. So it already going to be happen in Vietnam, but already happened in other countries. So some of the persons have disease, and the insurance company will ask them to pay higher because the risk could be more than the normal person. So if the person take exercise and they continue to reduce the risk, the company will reduce the cost that the person got to pay. So it could be the dynamic pricing. It's not just a fixed price as before. P2P lending, I believe you already know that. New digital payment system, it really happened today, and I believe you already experienced. And the last one could be blockchain technologies going to be already in place in Vietnam as well. So just a few more slides. That now we come into the insurance. So the insurance, I really say we use the emerging of the risk landscape. So the insurance, they respond and they apply the technology to reduce, for example, the insurance, they exploit awareness by monitoring and manage the policyholders' health. So one of the things is that, and the insurance and the bank, they also now they collect all the data. So where they collect the data, I'm going to say with you, they collect the data from your wearable device. They collect data from the social insurance, the action that you got. They collect data from telco. So you may be not aware that the telco company, I mean, a Vina phone, mobile phone, they share information to those companies that buy the data. So the insurance company know where you are, how long you stay in the gas station, or you stay in the gas or the shopping mall, and from there they understand your behavior. So they understand your risks compared to the risk model, and then they can charge you lower or higher. So that is about the making the data all together. So the last slide, I'm talking about the banking industry. That you can see in here that the technology today that allow you to pay by using your smartwatch. So all things could be integrated, but I'm not talking about the technology. I'm talking about that all data could be put all together. The problem in Vietnam right now today is that data is not integrated. And the other thing is that you got to buy. But I believe soon the government will be organized and put all data together, and from there get the intelligence and get the information and pick it back in order to service the citizen. So I would like to end up my slide today, and I hope you could find some useful information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Huile, for that very informative presentation. So now we will be moving into our next session, which is basically a moderator-curated panel discussion. And now I would like to welcome two more discussants to our session. And we first is Dr. Le Tan Nam, who is a senior lecturer at the Institute of Smart City and Management at the University of Economics, HCMC, Ho Chi Minh City, in Vietnam. Dr. Le is passionate in combining engineering knowledge, reliability modeling, and system engineering with statistical and econometric models to develop and apply optimal managerial framework and methodologies for risk assessment and modeling, due diligence, and asset management of urban engineering systems. So as an international consultant for global engineering firms, GHD and Arcadis, he has led various engineering projects, including the retrofitting and process upgrade of 900 MLD water treatment plant in Metro Manila, the Philippines. So welcome, Nam. And the second discussant would be Dr. Dakso So, who is an assistant professor at the Department of Spatial Environment Engineering and a key academic of the Institute of Global Citizenship with the United Nations Academic Impact. He is works at Handong Global University in South Korea. He is an urbanist, and he's involved in cutting-edge urban planning projects and regional studies such as smart city mobility, post-pandemic urban future, and social housing and innovation approaches in emerging world cities. So let's welcome both Nam and Dakso to the group. Okay, so now let's start our panel discussion. So Nam, given your background on infrastructure and engineering, would you like to share your thoughts about Livable Smart?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Thanks a lot for the nice introduction from Delhi. And actually, I'm situated here in Manila, in the Philippines. Because of the COVID, I cannot go back to Saigon for the time being. So listen to the two presenter, Professor Jansen and Mr. Huile. It's really quite fascinating to learn another field of study in the context of smart city and management. My background is more on engineering, like Billy just mentioned. I work mainly on the mathematical modeling and reliability. So I try to grab the how to link all that idea and things. In the greater sense. So I have actually. Is this okay that I can move first with some of the question for Professor Jansen, and then maybe follow up with the question for Mr. Huile,
Yes, please.
or perhaps maybe we can do a role play because we can focus on questioning Professor Hansen from both me and Professor Nuksu from the South Korea, and then we finish that one, and then we move next to question Mr. Huile. How do you would like us to proceed?
That's a good approach. So if we can focus first on the child-friendly cities. If you have a question for Davey, then that would be great.
Okay, so is it okay that I can go first, Duksu?
Yeah, sure. Right. You can go further. Go ahead.
Okay, so it were really, I was really impressed at first listening to the very nice presentation about the concept of bringing in what he just mentioned previously. I remember the word is called context-dependent content. So that is actually a kind of news like novel idea to me to understand. Like you're trying to involve all the stakeholder, participant, and especially in this case, in the context of safety engineering, trying to attract the student and also the child into your program. So frankly speaking, it's quite a nice idea. So I have a few questions here for you. So in one of your slides, you just show us a map with the with a lot of dots, right, with the different kind of intensity. And then I was amazed to see that dot, and then also you explained in your presentation that you measure, and then any individual, any participant of that town in Belgium perhaps participate in that program, and then it's looked to me that like thousand or million of people to participate in this kind of project. So my question is that how could you be able to do such a really massive implementation for this participation? And then did you provide all sort of sensor for free, or were done via a kind of mobile app that people have to turn on the Bluetooth all the time? So that is my first question. The second question is that I see the way you are proposing this kind of research methodology in the context of hazards identification. So I remember when I drive the car, we basically when we drive the car, not so in Vietnam, but in the Philippines or in Switzerland where I used to live, we always use kind of a navigation system. Right? So like Waze, for example. So in this kind of navigation system, the provider, they provide us to enter like interactively where is the police station or where is the accident happened. So it's a kind of real-time context dependent, content that the user can participate, right? So you bring that kind of concept for the children, for the student to participate in this one. What do you really expect aside from what you just mentioned? Are you going to develop a platform that allow the real-time notification not only to the school, not only to the parent, but it's also among the children, like the other children can prevent instantly to enter that kind of hazard. So that is my second question.
Okay.
Right. And another third question is maybe I have a lot of questions, but could be duplicated with Duksu later, but just only two more left. The other question is that can you give us the most three unsafe hazards in your project when you saw the map that you found in the study in Belgium? Right.
So thank you, Nam,
yeah.
for your questions. David, do you want to respond?
Yes, a lot of questions, Nam, so I'm going to try to answer them as good as possible. So first question was about the size of the project and the number of dots you saw in the presentation, right? So let me explain a little bit how we do this. So what we do is we go to a city, right, to one particular city, and we say, okay, dear city, do you want to do this project in your city? And can you involve or ask schools to participate in this project? Schools don't have to pay anything or so. We just have, let's say, the city as the main stakeholder who is, let's say, paying a little fee for administrating and doing the project, right? But all other participants can participate for free in the project. So it means, well, you have a number of schools per city. Assume you have Flanders, this is quite limited. You have 15 schools or so per city. And every school in the Flemish region contains around 500 students. It's not the size of Vietnam, but of course you're talking about then thousands of students who could potentially participate, right? If you see also every child has, let's say, 2 parents averagely. So you have a lot of people who see this software and who in a particular city have let's say, come into context with that software. So we do this always via, let's say, a guided approach. We first contact the city contacts the schools, and the schools contact the citizens, right? We, as a university or as a company, we do not contact directly the schools, the parents. We go always via the city, and the city goes to the schools, and the schools goes to the parents, right? So this is how we do it, because otherwise you cannot manage this as a small research group or even as a larger research institute, doesn't matter. You cannot, let's say, manage thousands of tickets, right? So basically we do this through this layered approach where we have, everyone has a responsibilities, the schools know the parents best, we don't come into this project or in this process. So that's how we do it. You also had a question related to that, how we did this. Well, I showed you the software, let's say the web page and the app. Some of them, all of them are using that software, so they receive from us a login code, all automatically, of course, and they can log in and use the system basically. But this comes with a communication letter, and the letter is sent, like I explained, via the schools to the parents and to the children. So we have not a lot of work, I would say, in managing this whole process, since this is all automated by the software, right? This is also the strong point, of course, because otherwise you cannot come up with such a huge data collection, right? I hope that this more or less answered the question, Dr. Nam.
Yes,
yes,
so I think
more or less.
Nam, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, if you have more questions, I'm happy to clarify them. But perhaps let's move on to the second question, which was about the navigation systems. So yeah, right now this data which we had and which I explained to you either is for informing or collecting some data about the environment. So the Route to School map tool is used for knowing what people see as unsafe locations, right? And then the education software is for, let's say, educating children better what these unsafe locations were and how to behave in this environment. What you are saying is the next step, right? So you are saying, wouldn't it be a good idea in order to include in real-time navigation system this traffic safety information, right? So I think it's a very good idea. Technically, it can be done, right? It's just another data layer, I would say, which you add to this navigation system. So you could say, indeed, dear driver, please know that you're now approaching a dangerous spot or dangerous locations. We know it from our crowd data, which was collected. So indeed, it's a good idea. It's some of the research ideas we have for the future, because this will come, of course, with some extra difficulties and problems. I'm saying now it's trivial, but in practice, when you do these things, it comes along with additional questions, privacy, and so on and so forth, and other matters. So we think it can be done as an extra data layer, and would be, in fact, a nice, I would say, we would be happy to share our data to these navigation systems. Perhaps we do this in collaboration with others. We cannot do it all by ourselves, of course, but I think that this whole project, if you say it's not only the goal of collecting data, educating people, but also doing real-time information provisions to the drivers, I think that would be a fantastic program, right? And we are happy to think about this for the future, and to, of course, look for collaborators, because that is something of a size you can't do on your own. And then The third question related to the three most important unsafe hazards. Basically, you can say there are in fact three main categories in our data. The first one is everything that has to do with infrastructure. So potholes in the street, broken segments of the road. So everything related to infrastructure. This causes a lot of, I would say, stress and a lot of unsafety and feelings of unhappiness with people because they don't like this at all. So that's a broad category of infrastructure. It has to do with painting zebra crosses, saving zebra crossings, and so on and so forth. Second large category is everything which has to do with behavior of people, right? It's not because you have an infrastructure problem. Behavior is something completely different. It has to do with also behavior of others. People, let's say, don't like it when others, the first, and we are all humans, we also look at behavior of others. So they don't like when other people behave unsafely. Like, for instance, if they park their car in the wrong way and so on and so forth. So this is all with behavior, right? And this is also why we have founded that education, let's say, software, which I showed you. And the third one, it has to do with not behaving to the traffic rules. So I would say the knowledge, right? So for instance, if you see that people don't give, let's say, way when they should do, or when the traffic light is violated, all things which has to do with not obeying the traffic rules. So these are the three, I would say, broad categories. And of course, there are, let's say, details in every category, but I think it would take me too long to explain this.
Yeah, I think, so maybe Nam could just send an email to Davey to further their discussion on this topic. So we now move on to Dakso because we don't have enough time. So Dakso, if you would like to pose your question to Mr. Hui Le.
Okay. Nice to meet you, everyone. I'm from Korea. I really miss Vietnam, actually. Food, people. Remember, today is quite impressive, and also Mr. Hui, actually, talking about kind of, more kind of financial sector, how we can smart city technology combine with our healthy life. I think that is also very interesting. So my question is this, like nowadays, smart city really encourage more kind of technology for the financing sector. For example, like there's an e-commerce actually minimize mobility. However, there is actually new kind of a commercial kind of encouragement without any kind of movement. So I'm just wondering in Vietnam situations, how the kind of e-commerce has developed, also is developing at the moment, and also how they kind of e-commerce encourage another technology, like something more actually even like a credit card in the mobile phone, or something combination between some technology in the kind of banking system. That is one of the question, and the other is if there is a more actually banking system in your mobile phone or something, security gonna be one critical issues. So always security, how security can be developed in Vietnam. Is there any kind of national government try to support kind of better security ecosystem in your country? Or so that is actually, I'm just wondering. Security is also some connected or new technologies. For example, like a blockchain actually technology is one of very critical issues now. So I'm also wondering, is there any kind of government try to support new technology development like a blockchain or something like this? That is my question. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Dakso, for your question. Maybe we can invite some questions from the audience, because
Sure.
maybe they have the same question for Dr. Hui Le.
Okay.
So if some someone from the audience would like to pose a question, please feel free to do so.
So in our audience, anyone who have the one question for anh Huy or for all our panelists? Kệ mấy cái giả vờ mình hỏi cái gì đi cho nó có vẻ vui vẻ sống động nhở, không giống mình như kiểu sắp ngủ đến nơi đấy.
I think they're shy.
They are so shy.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Don't be shy, guys.
Maybe we can ask Mr. Hui
answer and also the
answer.
Okay, so perhaps I hope my answer can break some of the ice and let the student can be more encouraged to asking the questions. So I want to answer for the first question that's asking about the e-commerce situation in Vietnam. In my experience, I believe that the e-commerce is growing very fast in Vietnam. A lot of the M&A, a lot of activities are happening. However, thing is that the urban city like Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi, the e-commerce is happening a lot. Let's pick an example that the how well Grab and B and all the sharing service that are available today. And also pick the case for myself, I would rather go into any the supermarkets or any do the shopping. I normally do the shopping online. It could save me a lot of time. So some of the major, especially during the COVID time, people have a lockdown. People have to stay at home. So I believe is the e-commerce. Yeah, so most of the people conduct the shoppings online. They order everything online, and the measure and the KPI which measure it grow. I believe quite double compared to before the COVID. Even with the internet banking and mobile banking also increase significantly. Given that people is not allowed to go on the streets or go into the bank. So I hope I could share the information, but I believe that the e-commerce in Vietnam will continue to grow. One of the other sides that I would like to share that because it is one of my interests is when I'm talking about the digital bank and digital banking. I believe not many people understand what does it mean with digital banking and digital bank. So some of the digital bank already announced like TNEC, if you are aware of. So the digital bank today, they not just the banking transaction, but they're also talking about the shopping on the bank. So some of you can be think that is why the bank provide the kinds of the what they call marketplace, so people can own the shopping. But the digital bank is something that people don't need to go into any bank branches or anywhere, and they do shopping. They go phone tapping for payment, all kinds of things. So that has happened today. The other question is about the security. Thank you very much for asking the security issue. Is another interesting topic. The government actually very much concerned about how the bank comply with the security. So all of the bank, I believe, they are all comply with some kind of the data encryption or online transaction to be compliant with the governance, the state bank, and they follow very much. However, there's still the case that some of the data leakings or accidents still happen in Vietnam. I believe just about 6 months ago, one of the banks, they exposed data out of the market. So I believe that it's not just about the banking system or the financial system in Vietnam being hacked by the others, but I believe that more than 80%. The data leaking, the information leaking out into the industry, out to the markets, because of the human behavior. People is not aware of what they are doing, create the risk for the organization. So that's why all of the financial institution, they saying that the problem happened from internal, create a much more trouble and happen a lot compared to the problem that they having from outside. So it could be a kind of the information security awareness that the organization normally educate the staff, that the staff need to be aware of the risk and they need to protect the client information. But when we are talking about the technologies like blockchain, so some of the application of the blockchain already happen in Vietnam, but I believe it's not much. But I believe in the next year or so, the technology could be happen. That's blockchain and other security could be happen a lot in Vietnam when they see the benefit of the technology. So can be. Then make a long story short, that I believe the Vietnam still have a long way to go with the security strengthens and protects the information. But Vietnam is one of the countries that changing very fast, and I believe in the next few years, the picture security and e-commerce and everything in Vietnam will be very close to the developed countries. That's my personal view.
Thank you, Mr. Huile. So we know that technology can support smarter human-centered approach in city building. This includes developing child-friendly spaces as well as physically and financially healthy families. Yet smart cities or technology cannot be taken as a panacea or a solution that will address social challenges that we encounter, right? So for example, child safety and health and well-being. So we need to raise further questions about how technology or smart cities can be used to create agency in building smart cities. So thank you for that live and active discussions amongst our 4 panelists. It is a pity that we do not have more time to extend this discussion further. And so at this point, let's give our presenters and the audience a big hand of applause. And then back to Dr. Trinh Tuan for the closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, our beautiful moderator, Dolly. Also, thank you very much for all the panelists. Mr. Huy come here, and also Mr. Nam spend time to sharing with us. Dr. Sir and also David spending time and discuss with the one other aspect to contribute towards the smart city development. That one we call human-centered approach. So thank you very much for spending time, and thank you.